On today's show, 10 thoughts after 10 games Dallas Mavericks have played so far. We will get into that. We'll tell you everything you need to know about the Mavs and 5 thoughts on the league, too.
We'll tell you why Jalen Brunson is the raisin brand of the NBA.
Ooh.
Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com, the Brunson Burner, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I don't really know how Jalen Brunson is the raisin brand of the NBA. I was just
come on.
That was just the latest cereal.
You don't want to eat it sometimes, but it's good for you. It's got that fiber, calcium, I guess, or whatever is in raisins.
Here's the thing with Raisin Bran.
Vitamin C, that's what I was looking for.
When I was younger, I thought that this cereal was the most healthiest thing ever. It's like, all right, if you're gonna eat cereal, Raisin Bran is the way. It's so healthy.
Bran Flakes, real bold taste.
And then I get older and I'm like, it's really not that healthy.
No, it's sugar all over it, everywhere.
And but you know what? If I'm gonna buy cereal, it's either that or like Special K, and I don't know. I just buy into the false narratives now.
And then you said, see you later, Bran Flakes.
Kind of like LeBron fans.
This episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. I don't think they serve Bran Flakes. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. Ba-do-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. All right, on today's show, like I said, 10 thoughts after 10 games. We will get into it from the Mavs perspective, from the league perspective. We'll go around the gambit. You brought it up first. Jalen Brunson. That's my first one. My number one thing after 10 games. Jalen Brunson is taking the next step. He is. He's really stepped up so far this season.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. Tell me more. Is he an all-star? No, he's not. But he's been really good. The Mavericks, when he's on the court, are incredible. It's been like 538 is a statistics website, and they have this stat called Raptor that measures efficiency. He is top 5 in the NBA in efficiency right now.
Wow.
As far as like how good the Mavericks are when he's on the court. It's an incredible. He's like up there with, Jokic and Curry and Giannis. It's an insane stat that he's up there. It just shows that when he's on the court, he's making a real big impact right now. And when there's a stat I'll bring up later where the Mavericks are actually, statistically not very good when Luka's been on the court so far. The Mavericks have struggled, and part of that is because of the starting 5. There's a bunch of different things I'll bring up with that. The Mavericks have struggled offensively and defensively when Luka's on the court, but when Luka and Brunson share the court, the Mavericks have a positive net rating. They have 121 points per 100 possession offensive rating, which is through the roof insane. And so that combo has been absolutely great. And so Brunson taking the next step, that's my first thing. Just my first thought after the season so far. It's one of the few things we actually know about this season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say he's, probably better than Yogi Ferrell. But shout out to Iztalk and
his article in D Magazine. If you read that, you'd understand that joke.
Yeah, but when you just look at Brunson's numbers, just his on-off stuff, he's played 286 minutes on, 194 minutes off. In those 194 minutes off the floor, the Mavericks are a minus 18 in those minutes that he is not on the floor, with an offensive rating of 90 and a defensive rating of 109 in that. And it's the number one takeaway after 10 games. It's yes, they're 7-3. Yes, they're third in the West right now. Like whatever conclusions you want to draw about the team. But the number one thing right now is Brunson's taken a step. And if this sustains, like if this is consistent throughout the whole year, it's huge for this team on multiple fronts, but big time.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. The 2018 draft paying dividends over and over and over again. So Brunson taking next step, absolutely a huge thing for the Mavericks. Another thing, one of the reasons why he's been so good, and we just keep saying he's good, but one of the reasons why is he's been so decisive this season, just in He gets the ball. He does something with it. He goes for a shot. He drives and kicks. His passes have been really good this season. But something in that Is Talk article from D Magazine, only Steph Curry was more accurate on shots with greater than 2 seconds of touch time, a characteristic of self-created shots among all players who shot at least 400 of those. So if you have the ball for more than 2 seconds, Jalen Brunson has been incredibly efficient, almost as efficient as Steph Curry, who's the number 1 on that list. So he has the ball, he holds on to it, he creates something, he created something for himself, he creates something for others. And it's sometimes his decisiveness takes time to develop. It doesn't mean that he gets the ball out quick and he's like Lonzo, where he just passes the ball real quick. But he decides what he's going to do. He makes it happen. He gets into, like, if you play 2K, sometimes you have to get into the animation and you get stuck with like, all right, I'm going to pull this move. Brunson gets into his animation. He gets where he's going to go. And then boom, he makes it happen. And that's been an incredible thing to watch so far.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think his decision making, I think his body, I think this is the best we've seen him in the NBA. And now we just got to see if this is permanent, JB.
Let's hope so. There's not much that isn't sustainable, though. It's not like he's just been like 80% from 3 or something like that, right? This is stuff that he can sustain throughout the season. There's some shooting stuff that maybe could come back down to earth a little bit but it's not too much, right? A lot of this, I think, can sustain throughout the season.
Yeah.
Next thing, another one of my thoughts after 10 games. Not all 7-3 teams are created equal. This is a little bit around the league, but the Mavericks are 7-3. You know who else is 7-3? The Heat and the Bulls. The Mavericks play the Bulls tonight.
Same level teams.
If you're listening to this and watching this, so that same exact record, the Heat and the Bulls. But the Heat and the Bulls are both 2 of the 4 teams that are top 5 or top 10 in offensive and defensive ratings. So best in offensive efficiency, best in defensive efficiency. That is the mark.
The Mavs aren't?
The Mavs are not there. It's Golden State, Utah, and then Miami and Chicago. That is the mark of a team that can win a championship. There's not been many teams I've tracked over the last, since they started counting offensive efficiency, since like 98, basically. So that's what, like 30 years or something like that, that if you're not top 12, top 11, top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency, you don't win the title. It just hasn't happened. There's very few exceptions, and it's usually a team that's repeating from a title the year before because they got lazy during the regular season, right? Like it doesn't happen very often. So those 2 teams are right now on firing on all cylinders. Miami and Chicago. Utah and Golden State obviously have better records than 7-3, but the Mavericks, if you're like, okay, where does this leave the Mavericks? The Mavericks are 19th in offensive rating and in 19th in defensive rating. So they're below average, like pretty far below average on both. That's why everyone's so confused about this Mavericks team. And Kirk had a good point today on Twitter. He's like, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about the Mavericks on a national scale. That's because no one knows what to make of this team right now, right? There's just not many people that can watch every single game like we do and say, all right, this is what we're getting from the Mavericks. This is what we understand about them. If I was just watching passing, I would have no idea what to think about the Mavericks team.
Yeah, because, well, it's just still, I know fans don't like to hear this, but it's like, we just have to see more. Like, I think you could sum everything up by saying, I think the next 10 games will define this team way more than the first 10 games.
Absolutely.
And it's, there was just we're not going to sit here and do a whole segment on why the 7-3 record is, deceiving, but there were some players missing, from some opponents they play. They did have a weaker schedule in that, there was different factors that played into that, but they're still 7-3. Let's see what happens over these next 10 games. I think it was on yesterday's pod. You kind of laid that out of some, games against Phoenix and the Clippers. The Chicago game is coming up tonight. Huge measuring stick game. They just beat Brooklyn by like over 20 the other night. So if they could go into Chicago and beat Chicago, a really good Bulls team right now, like that's huge for this team.
Massive.
But if they get smacked, then we're like, all right, well, we kind of know that this is why we're not getting talked about nationally.
Right. Correct. And the Mavericks have been smacked by the Nuggets and the Heat and also the Hawks, right? The 3 decent to good teams they played so far. Yeah. And the Hawks actually have a bad record right now. You'd much rather be where the Mavs are and have a good record and maybe not look so good on the court than have a 100%. Bad record and you maybe were like, oh, the team's better. So yeah. All right, coming up, let's get into some more thoughts. I have 3 more thoughts on the Mavericks coming up about Luka Doncic, the starting lineup. And it's not all Dwight Powell's fault. I just want to make that clear.
Oh,
we've thrown out a lot about Dwight Powell, but I want to talk about in the second segment how it's not all
Did
Dwight
y'all
Powell's
text?
fault.
Here, I'm gonna text Dwight right now. I'm telling that. I'm gonna tell him that you said.
We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna read any of this copy they sent us because I have something that is even better for them as an advertisement.
I literally said the other day, this right here will write its ads for you.
Isaac and I, before we started the show yesterday, received an email from Built Bar because we are on their email list because we really actually like these bars. It's a protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. And coconut brownie chunk is back.
It's back, baby.
It's back. And we literally stopped. I was about to hit record on the podcast. We stopped what we were doing and we went and we ordered multiple boxes.
Yep.
We did. We went and we just stopped what we
I
were
went
doing.
and got my wallet. And I was like,
we went
nope.
and got our wallets. Yeah, we had to go get it. And we came back and we ordered Built Bars instead of doing the podcast. We put off sleep. We put off this show. That's how good they are. Use the promo code LOCK15. We did. We saved money. We used the promo code LOCK15 to save money on these Built Bars. Coconut brownie chunk, the best flavor they've ever made. Go check it out. Built.com, promo code LOCKed15. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more thoughts. 10 thoughts after 10 games. I'm finishing up my Mavericks thoughts, and then we'll get into Isaac's thoughts about the rest of the league. The starting lineup needs to change.
Wow, this is. Let me note this is breaking news.
I'm not breaking news to anybody like that. I know I'm not breaking any news to anybody. We've talked about this multiple times. I think we have multiple videos on our channel about Mavs changing this lineup, but it has to. It's been so bad in multiple different instances of it.
But they're 7-3, Nick. Why do they need to change it?
The Mavericks starting five with Luka, Porzingis, Tim Hardaway, Dorian, and Dwight has played so far 29 minutes in first quarters, just in the first quarter. So not in total in the game, just in first quarter. So basically to start the game, they have a -20 net rating. That means they're getting outscored 20 points per 100 possessions. And usually an NBA game is like 100 possessions. So it's basically just saying this team is getting smoked every time they go out on the floor. If you take Luka, Hardaway, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell, and you switch out Porzingis for Bullock, that team has played 13. That lineup has played 13 minutes so far in first quarters, just in first quarters. That lineup has a net rating of -57.7.
Wow,
it's bad, man. They're getting smoked by 57 points per 100 possessions
in the first quarter.
They got to change something up, right? Like they got to switch it up. And I'm gonna say I already said I'm gonna make the case why it's not all Dwight Powell's fault. But they got to take out Dwight Powell.
I was going to say, where are you going with this?
Like, they do. They have to change. It's become so obvious. And I think Kevin Gray asked Jason Kidd after practice on Tuesday, what have you thought? How would you evaluate the big men so far on your roster? You've used a bunch of, we've played a bunch of different ones. And he's like, Dwight's done a good job in energy and what he's brought, in the pick and roll. And I'm like, those are good talking points, but he's not been good.
He sets good screens.
Sometimes he doesn't even do that.
No, he does do that. He plays really well with Maxey. I feel like we've seen this before. We've seen lineups work with him and Maxey together. It feels like there's a natural bench unit that you just put Dwight in the Willie role off the bench. And then you have this Brunson, Frank, Maxey, Dwight, whoever you want to throw in. Like if it's Sterling Brown, if it's Reggie Bullock, if Reggie starts in place of, Dwight, or would you start Sterling Brown in place of Dwight?
No. Not right now.
Are you sure?
I don't think so.
Okay. But I mean I feel like that's a natural bench unit that's the type of role for Dwight, right? Like it's the same conversation we've had with Dorian, Jalen, Maxey, these guys when they're playing 35 minutes as a starter in some of these big games and people are like freaking out and be like, oh my gosh, Dorian sucks and like all this stuff. I'm like, no, he doesn't suck. It's just maybe 35 minutes as a starter. Maybe that's not his like ideal role. Can he be like an actual role player? And so I think that's the Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell doesn't suck. It's just,
right.
I just don't think him starting as a starting center in the league playing over 30 minutes a game is the right role for him. And he plays well with Maxey.
Correct. And the fix would be, some people would say, well, who should start then if it shouldn't be Dwight Powell? it should be Maxey or it should be KP alone as the 5, right? But both of those guys, Maxey and KP, have missed time with injury. So you understand some of these, right? Like, I'm not calling for, all right, they have to start Boban. They have to start Willie. They have to start Moses. I'm not calling for that exactly just yet. And so some of this has been because of injury and because of necessity, and I understand that. But so far it's just not working. I would try Moses instead at this point. Like, they need to try something else, something different, or just put Boban in. Just start Boban. You might as just, especially just to start the game, because they're just getting smoked to start games. But yeah, they have to change something in the starting lineup. 2 more thoughts. The Mavericks are 7-3, and the numbers are awful when Luka is on the court. This is one of those thoughts where you're like, this is just a thought, and I have no idea what to make of it. Luka Doncic on the court so far, they're getting outscored by almost 10 points per 100 possessions, which is it's just a really weird thing to see. The offense is not efficient. The offense is not good. Luka is out there basically making everything himself, making everything happen. And when Luka's off the court, which is the bench unit, the Mavs bench has been carrying them through some of these games, and it's very apparent. That's just a thought, not a point even.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot to add to that off the top because I didn't research this Mavs angle of this one. But I mean, that just shows me that they haven't found the right combinations to put around him.
Nope.
And I'll just leave that at that.
And that's that. We kind of went over there. All right. So, but it's not all Dwight Powell's fault. This is my case for that.
Is that your 5th point?
Luka, this is my 5th point, my 5th and last point. Luka on the court with Dwight Powell. -10 net rating. So they're getting outscored by 10 points per 100 possessions. Luka on the court, Dwight Powell off the court, -8.6. So it doesn't get that much better, right? There's still some things that this team has to figure out. There's still the offense gets better, the defense gets worse, basically, with Luka on and Dwight Powell off. It's not all Dwight Powell's fault, but he has become this huge scapegoat. The Mavericks do need to make some kind of move and flip some things around, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's been the easy scapegoat for a lot of people, especially on Twitter, and that's what a lot of people judge, Mavs fans off of, is the small, community on Twitter that represents Mavs fandom. Let's go.
We've done that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Coming up, let's get into some NBA thoughts. 5 thoughts about the NBA so far. A lot of teams have played 10 games so far. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline.ag. It's the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports, including college basketball. If you're into college basketball, they got a whole bunch of stuff you can put money down on. Use the promo code locked on, and you can get a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Check out a lot of their NCAA odds. They got some odds right now. Let's see, Wednesday, what games are coming up? We got an incredible amount of games. just so many games that you can watch. Detroit at Wyoming. Wyoming, a 5-point favorite. Florida Atlantic at New Mexico. Florida Atlantic, a road favorite, 2.5 points.
Wow, that's a steal right there.
Michigan, a 16-point favorite at home against Buffalo. You're thinking Michigan can't pull it off, or if you're Tim Hardaway or Trey Burke and you're listening to this, go ahead and put some money down on Michigan. There you go. Check it out. BetOnline. Use the promo code Locked On. 50% welcome bonus your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more thoughts. You got 5 thoughts about the NBA after 5 games. Also, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. Remember, Locked On Mavs is free and available on all platforms. Make sure your second listen today is Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, your one-stop daily shop for all your gambling needs.
Yeah, so, one, after 10 games, you said 5 games, but we kind of split this pot of,
what do numbers mean?
What do numbers mean? To where, Nick took 5, things about the Mavs after 10 games. I took 5 things about the league after 10 games, since pretty much every team is around that 10 to 11 game mark. My number one thing, just right off the top, is the West seems wide open. And I think going into the season, set the East off to the side. Going into the season, it was, obviously the Lakers, however you thought about Russell Westbrook, that addition, that fit. Then you had, Phoenix. Can they get back to the finals again? Utah's going to be a good team. There's a lot of different opinions on Golden State, Denver, the Clippers, the injuries to Kawhi, Jamal Murray, all of that. And I think now more than ever, I'm going to talk about Golden State after this, but it just seems like anything could happen in the West. Like Golden State's 9-1, Utah is 7-3, Dallas is 7-3. Utah played last night, so probably have a different record. I think they're 8-3 now, probably after beating the Hawks. But that's what the top of the West looks like. Phoenix is up there, Memphis is up there. So it just seems like now more than ever, the West does seem just wide open right now.
There's not a team where you look at and you say, "Ooh, there's no way the Mavs can beat that team," or "There's no way that that team can get beaten." Basically, maybe this is not just a Mavs conversation, but that Jazz team, that Warriors team, if the Mavericks get back on track, if the Mavericks hit shots, they can beat anybody. If they're hitting shots, they can beat anybody. They really can. They were beating that Clippers team last year with Kawhi and all that. But Lakers have looked bad. Everybody else is, it's just all over the place.
Yeah, it's like if the playoffs started right now, like I don't know if there's a series right now in the West that if the playoffs started right now that I would say, Dallas just doesn't have a shot in this one.
Yeah, like no shot at all, right? Like they wouldn't be favored against
the
Suns, the Warriors, the Jazz. They wouldn't be favored against any of these teams. But
exactly, they wouldn't be favored. But I'm not sitting there saying there's no chance in the world. My second point into this, and it's probably contradicts my first one, but in both conferences, Golden State and Miami, they look legit. Like those, some vet teams. I think Golden State. Let's just leave Miami to Miami, but the Golden State situation going to the season, it's like, all right, we kind of knew the top. It's like, all right, a lot of people thought the Lakers, Phoenix, Utah, some iteration of those three at the top. And then you had this whole group of teams, Golden State kind of in that Dallas group. And the whole big question is, man, can Golden State hold the ship afloat until Clay gets back? And they're not just floating, they have the sails set. They're going fast right now.
Their one loss right now was that overtime game against the Grizzlies. Remember that crazy overtime game? That's their one loss right now. They beat the Lakers, Clippers to start the season. They beat Memphis, or they lost to Memphis that game. They don't have the best win profile if you're just looking at a team of they've beat some really good teams. Now, we just went over how there's not a lot of good teams right now, but their wins against Sacramento, 2 wins against Oklahoma City, Charlotte, New Orleans, Houston, Atlanta. There's not a ton of good wins there, but they are taking care of business, and they're top 10 in both offensive defensive rating. They're doing their thing. Steph is carrying that offense 50 points the other night that Candace Parker correctly predicted, which was incredible. They're getting contributions from Poole and Wiggins, and obviously Draymond leading that defense. And they've been awesome.
If they can continue that and then bring Clay back, Wiseman, they're going to be in the race for anybody who hits the trade market, trade conversations. They have random pieces and young guys. They're fascinating. They're a lot of fun to watch. I think we've both been huge fans of watching them play basketball and Steph.
And this softens the Klay Thompson return. Doesn't make him as desperate for him to just come back right away, right? Sure, they could lose the next 9 and be 500, but this really softens it where he doesn't have to come back. Hey, come back because we're floundering right now. We're not even in the playoff race.
Yeah, and it shows you too, when you have an infrastructure like that and you just make the right signings,
and stay healthy.
And they stay healthy, but the Bielitsa signing, that. Okay. Such an incredible fit. And it's that's the type of around the edges signings that, kind of make your team what it is. So, okay, next one. This was actually my most improved player pick for the year. I'm feeling very confident after 10 games. Ja Morant has really taken the leap. This guy. You look at his numbers last year. He averaged 19.7 assists last season. He shot 30% from 3 last year. Right now, after 10 games, he's up to 26 points a game, still at 7 assists a game, but 36% from 3, 48% from the field. They're 6-4. They're right there in the middle of the playoff picture in the West. I get it. It's 10 games. But still, and highlights and eye test and all that too. He's so much fun to watch. I love that guy. If we did who's your favorite players outside of Dallas to watch play basketball, he's probably in my top 5 or 6 players. I love watching him play.
He'll explode to the rim on something once a game or twice a game where you're it's Derrick Rose-esque, right? Where he just explodes to the rim.
I seen somebody on Twitter the other day said, this is what I thought Dennis would be. And I was like, dang it.
What if?
What if Dennis But no, he is a lot of fun. And, when you look at from the Mavs angle of this, like if he continues to be this and to be a star in this league, like this is something you see quite often. And another young guy in the West that, get a few more pieces. And they've been in the playoff picture for the past year or so. So they're not going anywhere.
It's a good thing divisions don't matter, right? Besides schedule, that's the only thing the divisions matter for anymore, right?
Yeah. So, you got to see Ja a lot. So we'll see Frank Ntilikina have the Ja assignment. Next thing, how special is this rookie class?
Ooh, there's a new one every night. It feels like somebody's like, oh, there goes Chris Duarte. Ooh, there goes Evan Mobley. Ooh, there goes Jalen Green.
Like just go down this class. I seen somebody say the other day, man, they said this draft class like rejuvenated the NBA, which I don't think the NBA ever died, but it did add a little spark to it because there are so many good young players. I feel like we're just now seeing Cade kind of do his thing. I mean, he's only 4 games in. Jalen Green just gets buckets, but like Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Josh Giddey, Franz
Jalen Green either gets buckets or he kicks the bucket. Like there's only 2 gears for Jalen Green, and the Mavs saw him kick buckets.
Yeah, but like even like going down past the top, 5, it's you have Giddey, you have Franz in Orlando, and we've all watched. Love Scotty Barnes, but like you see the Davion Mitchell, defense and stuff in Sacramento, Duarte in Indiana, like even Şengün in Houston's been a lot of fun. Like there's just guys up and down this board that I really like this draft class, and it feels like making an all rookie team. Some years you're like just trying to just find people. You're like, all right, can Kai Jones, like, can we fit him on this? And it's not one of those years. Like, there's going to be some snubs on this.
Well, all love, but remember, didn't Yogi Ferrell make an all rookie team?
Oh my gosh, I think he did.
Right? I'm gonna look that up real quick. Make sure I'm not just talking out of my butt. I'm pretty sure Yogi Ferrell made it that one year. Yep, he made all rookie in 2017.
Let's go, Yogi.
With the Mavs. I miss when they used to hit Yogi in the arena after Yogi Ferrell would hit a shot.
It was so good.
That was great. But yeah, this rookie class is awesome. Scotty Barnes has been the big surprise. I thought that was a big mistake for the Raptors when they picked Scotty Barnes over Jalen Suggs, but Barnes has been exactly what they need. He's not even hitting threes yet, but he's been incredible defensively. He's leading the class in scoring, and he's getting a bunch of boards. He looked good against the Mavericks when they played him. He just has a couple of plays every game. Mobley has been my favorite, though.
Oh my gosh, man.
Just watch. Like, he's an NBA nerd's like dream, just to watch him defend and watch him switch, like, from defending outside on the perimeter, defending inside, and the way that he can get to like shots. I was watching a game of theirs the other day, and he blocked somebody's shot, and the player that got blocked was surprised. He was like, what the heck? Like, how did you get to that? And then he got the ball and he ran out in transition and got an assist in transition. He's just one of those guys that just knows how to play. He's going to be solid. He's like a not like Hall of Fame level of Tim Duncan, but he's like that level where he's just like, he's going to be solid at a lot of things, and he's good.
Super special. Can already defend on the perimeter. He's just, Dallas has, they got Cleveland coming up in 2 weeks? Coming up fairly soon. And normally it's one of those games you're like, all right, let's just get it over with. I know I'm excited for this guy. Like, I like some of these.
They're 7-4 right now.
Yeah, they're playing well. Ricky Rubio's playing awesome. And there's still guys we haven't seen like really. We're 10 games in, but like Jalen Suggs, Kuminga, Book Knight, like these are guys that were talked about before. It's like they could really hit their stride and make this class even better.
Yeah, we've only seen 4 games of Cade. There's a lot of guys we could still see a lot of.
Yeah. So, okay, so my last one. Most of them's been pretty positive, as far as after 10 games, the West is wide open. Golden State.
Now are we talking about Markieff Morris?
No. Golden State, Miami being legit. Ja Morant making a leap. Rookie class is special. My fifth one is the Pelicans are screwed. Like, I just don't know. I kind of feel bad for like whatever fan base they have. What are you excited about? Like, are you trying to think about Drew Brees coming back out of retirement, or
that is not playing in the NFL here?
Are you like watching old like Rondo clips throwing passes to Boogie and AD
Oh, I
in that
forgot he
one
played for them.
like what are you watching Chris Paul oops to Tyson Chandler and with David West, at the elbow? Like what are you watching right now if you're a New Orleans basketball fan? And the Zion situation, you texted me in the arena the other night of your observation of Zion in person. And
Zion was there. We saw him walking across the floor, and he's beefy.
Yeah, and it's like you can't like really deny that right now, and just the whole situation, all the reporting around it, all their moves was just super weird over the offseason. I I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know what you're like really hopeful for. I mean, that team was really bad the other night. They have some guys I think they could flip at the deadline. I mean, they're 1-10. Like you're not coming out of this. I don't care like what happens. So I think Jonas can get you something. Garrett Temple, somebody will take him for a couple seconds. And I mean,
if you're the
outside
Mavs,
that,
would you trade for Jonas Valanciunas right now? And
100%.
Yeah, but what would you trade?
Well,
would they take Josh Green? Would you do that?
Josh Green for Jonas?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
At the deadline?
Now. Like we're recording this at 10:45, and you know me, I don't really do the whole like on the pod live on the pod I will trade this Maverick for this.
Yeah, you don't really kick guys out of town necessarily.
I don't really
it's not really your
do
brand.
that. That's kind of hard for me to do, but yeah, I would for
would the Pelicans do that, do you think?
No. I think they can get more for him. They'll have some.
That's true. It's going to be like one of those OKC trades where they get a pick.
They'll get a pick. Yeah, some playoff team will get him. Somebody.
The thing is, there's not a lot of teams that really need something like that, though. Or are there?
I don't know. I mean, I think a Western Conference team could get him and say, all right, I don't know his numbers going against Jokic, so if Jokic just destroys him every time, don't come after me. But like, I mean, theoretically, wouldn't a Western Conference team be like, hey, if we're going to face Denver in the playoffs, let's have Jonas to throw at Jokic. Same thing in the East. Like, if you want a big body that is actually a talented big body, would you want somebody like Jonas to go against Embiid? I mean, he can shoot threes and stuff too. He has a nice touch around the basket. Like, I love watching him play, mainly because I'm a sucker for like the old school bigs who, typically are not in the league anymore. I like watching them play now and see how they work.
What if the Mavericks had a starting lineup of Valanciunas, Porzingis, Doncic, Kleba? It's like give me all the Europeans and start them all. Bring on a Hernan Gomez, brother. Is that all your five?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There you go, guys. We will break down the Mavericks versus the Bulls game. Huge test for the Mavericks tonight. We'll have the breakdown of all that right after the game. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.